What is up, Railroaders? I'm Joshua Thomas, and you are watching another one of my Final Fantasy VII Remake videos. In this video, I have placed all of the flashback scenes in chronological order. Now, it's not in chronological order of when us, the player, sees them. They're in chronological order of the actual timeline of Final Fantasy VII and the world of Gaia. So, what you're going to see here is my best estimates on some of them, like when Aerith is a kid and when Tifa and Cloud are kids. Couldn't tell you exactly which ones come first. And there are some ambiguous flashbacks that may or may not have enough evidence as to whether they're true flashbacks or hallucinations or other types of, memories. So I'm going to play that. It's going to be about almost 14 minutes, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on it, and I definitely want to hear what you think after seeing these flashbacks in chronological order, if you learned something new, especially if you have not played the original game. So without further ado, I will play those, and I'll see you at the end, and if you want to skip around, there are chapters in the time bar.
But he didn't come. I couldn't help fearing the worst, even then. But I told myself his leave must have been postponed, that he'd been delayed. Every day I went, to wait and to pray. And that's how I met her and her mother. I thought maybe they'd run away from Wall Market, or that they were topsiders fallen on hard times. I'd seen that sort of thing a lot. Take Aerith somewhere safe. Those were her mother's dying words. My husband had been away for so long, and I was lonely. So I convinced myself the safest place for the girl was with me. It took no time at all for her to start feeling like family. She was a real chatterbox.
Mommy, don't be sad.
That's what she said to me one day, out of the blue. So I asked her, what's wrong?
A man you really, really loved just died. His heart came a long way to say goodbye. But he couldn't stay because he had to return to the planet.
I didn't believe her, of course. And then, a few days later, I received a letter saying my husband had been killed in action. Things like that, she'd just know. It was a lot to deal with, but we were happy. And then came the knock.
Coming! No! Go away!
Aerith, you know you're not just any little girl. You're a descendant of the ancients.
I had no idea what he meant, so I said, "Who are the ancients?"
They were the original stewards of the planet, whose boundless knowledge and wisdom shall guide us to the promised land. Some believe the promised land to be a myth, others an allegory of sorts. But we take the words of the scriptures at face value and believe it to be quite real. Which is why Shinra would like very much for Aerith to help us—
You're wrong! I'm not an ancient!
But Aerith, even when you're all alone, don't you hear voices whispering secrets?
No, never!
But all three of us knew that wasn't true. That man knew exactly who Aerith was, where she'd come from, and what she could do.
Well, are ya?
I'm ready now!
Me too! Found you! No way! We found you!
You got me. Hey, where's Aerith?
I'm ready! I'm ready! I said I'm ready! Come get me! I'm right here. Mom? Cloud! Are you ignoring me? Tifa, wait!
Tifa!
Tifa!
Heya. So, what did you want to talk about?
When spring comes, I'm leaving town. I'm going to Midgar.
Should have figured. All the guys are leaving.
But I'm not like them. I'm not going just to look for work. I'm going to be a soldier. The best of the best. Like Sephiroth.
The Great War hero, huh? Isn't it pretty hard to become a soldier?
Yeah. So I won't be back for a long time.
Guess not. Think you'll be in the papers?
I'll try.
Just promise me one thing. When we're older, and you're a famous soldier, if I'm ever trapped or in trouble, promise you'll come and save me.
Huh?
That's what heroes do. They save people. Please? Just once. Come on, promise me.
Fine. I promise.
I've never been so proud. The man you've become. Women must be hounding you day and night.
Not really.
You know, there's all kinds of temptations in the big city. I'd feel a lot better if I knew you'd found a good girl. One who'd make sure you didn't get into trouble.
I can take care of myself.
An older, more mature girl that could keep you on the straight and narrow and tell you when you're being a silly goose. That's the perfect type for you, I'd say.
Were the planet to die, so many things would be lost. Your hometown that burns so bright, the sound of her voice, pleading for me to spare you, the shiver of her flesh yielding to cold steel.
Mako, Shinra, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of all of this!
Within my veins flows the blood of ancients. This planet is my birthright.
We drag our asses all this way. This is the welcome we get. Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. As a soldier! Come and get it! Wait, was that all of them? Hey, Cloud, you see that? Almost there, Cloud. We're almost there.
And the kids that the Black Wing carries away have to live in the train graveyard forever and ever. So you have to stay far, far away from there.
All right then, I will.
Oh, you know Betty? Yesterday, she went with her daddy to... When is Daddy coming back?
Actually, he might not make it home tonight.
So that was every flashback in Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you were wondering why a certain scene wasn't in there, you're like, I'm pretty sure that was a flashback. I did as much research as I could, and some of them I think I either debunked as maybe flash forwards or as just plain hallucinations. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk a little bit about those too. A couple things I want to get into are, I think Aerith's flashbacks are pretty self-explanatory. The one that perhaps needs a little bit of explanation is the one where she's in the train graveyard and she sees herself as a kid playing hide and seek. I'm willing to bet that that is a flashback and not a hallucination. In this scene, Elagor is attempting to make Aerith sad, fill her with misery and sorrow. And so it gives her, it feeds off of her memories, it feeds off of her fears, and it looks into her mind and finds a memory of when she was a kid and when she was crying, when she was, longing for her mother. And this is before in the game when we realize that her real mother is dead and, she was there when it happened. That's really the only sort of wibbly-wobbly flashback I had with Aerith. Now we're going to move over into Tifa and Cloud's flashbacks. So some of these people think may be hallucinations, can neither confirm nor deny, but the one really quick one where Tifa and a bunch of boys are following her, calling her name, it's just a really quick flash where Cloud, it's after Cloud has rescued the kids in Sector 5. This is in reference, and this is going to start to get into spoilery territory, so, stick around at your own risk in some of these areas. But this is going to get into the time when it's after Tifa's mother has died, and she's going to Mount Nibel to see if she can find her dead mother's soul and talk to her and try to bring her back. And so this is when the boys are chasing after her, and of course Cloud eventually goes as well. We'll eventually see that in a flashback, either in Remake Part 2 or 3. So I don't want to get into too much detail, but that's what I think that's in reference to. The next ones, I think are also pretty obvious. Cloud talking about going to Midgar. Then we get into what there are several flashbacks of, and that is 5 years ago. And we start off with Claudia, who is Cloud's mother, and, well, this is when he first gets back to his hometown. The next two flashbacks were, I think, sort of interchangeable. It's when Cloud was crawling towards his burning house, and when we see Sephiroth in the flames, and Cloud staring at him. They could be interchangeable. But then we get into one that a lot of new gamers weren't sure about. So this, you've seen this. This is a flashback. A lot of new gamers weren't sure about this Cowboy Tifa, whether this was a flash forward or back. Well, now you know the answer. One thing that I wish they had explained in the video game, all it needed was just Tifa saying one word, and that's Papa. She's crying, mourning over her dead father in this scene, and she is also picking up Sephiroth's sword and then entering a building. I won't say exactly what it is. Then we have a scene where I believe it's in reference to, once again, it's just a quick flash where Sephiroth says, "This planet is my birthright." I think that's in reference to what happens next, right after Tifa gets his sword. Then we have another quick flash of Cloud in a tank, suggesting that maybe he had been experimented on. Once again, won't go into a lot of detail about that, but I believe that does happen after the events in Nibilheim. Then we get to something that confused a lot of new players, and that was this new character, Zack, who's introduced at the very end of Remake. So this is definitely a flashback. It is of the events that take place right before the opening, or maybe days before the opening of the video game where we actually get to play it. So yeah, that's Zack fighting a bunch of Shinra soldiers and then carrying who appears to be wounded Cloud towards the city of Midgar. So that's pretty much it right there. I think when we look at all the flashbacks that they show in Remake in chronological order, we can infer a little bit more detail than if we just see them mixed up in random orders. But I feel like they were definitely trying to tease us with certain flashbacks. There's a couple scenes in which I couldn't quite figure out what they were flashbacks. Well, one of them I couldn't quite figure out, and that was the one where Cloud is talking to himself after he falls from the plate down into the church. He's still kind of unconscious and talking to himself. I couldn't find any references to it being a flashback, so I'm counting that as just a hallucination, him talking to himself. And then there's the scene in, I believe, the beginning of chapter 17, where they confront Sephiroth, and Cloud has a brief flash of Sephiroth talking to his mother, Jenova. It's preceded, or it's followed by the flashback once again to Tifa in the cowboy outfit. And so I kept teetering back and forth between whether that was a slight flash forward to when Sephiroth actually cuts Genova's body out of the chamber that they're in the drum, or if that was a flashback to, once again, 5 years ago. It's a little ambiguous because in the original, in the flashback, you can see Genova's face. You can see her head, whereas in this one, in the present day, her head is encased in this giant metal thing. It should be missing at this point, like she shouldn't have a head, and in the past she does have a head. Not going to get into great details about that either. Those of you who have played the original might be saying, hey Josh, this is obviously a reference to the past. After watching the flashback scene in the original game, I didn't see where Sephiroth said those exact lines, but enough lines have been changed that, yeah, if you believe that's a flashback, I wholeheartedly understand. Nevertheless, it could also be a flash forward mixed with a flashback, because shortly after that, Cloud also grabs his left arm, which is in reference to Advent Children, which is something that happens in the future. So it looks like at this point he is getting flashes of the past and the future. So it could be either one. Also, if you look at the background where Sephiroth is talking to his mother, it could be slightly different than where they are. I really tried to analyze the background, and one scene I was like, oh, it could be the present day, and in another scene it could be the past. So I leave that up for your interpretation. That's why I didn't include it in the others. Anything else that any of these other strange flashes that you see most likely are flash forwards in time. So I actually thought about doing a separate video where we look at all the flash forwards in chronological order, but I didn't want to give too much away to new players to the game. I feel like putting a couple of those in chronological order could give away a little too much. And once again, I didn't show every single flashback if they were happening more than once in the game. So like the Cowboy Tifa flashback happens, certain parts of it happens a couple times, and I just skipped that and just showed it once all the way through. It's interesting the little tidbits that they did give us, however, in Remake Part 1. They're feeding us just enough to pique our curiosity, but at the same time, they're not answering really many questions except for the Aerith ones. And to an extent, some of the Cloud ones, once again, I think they should have referenced that that was Tifa's father that was dead there, because I think that once again adds an extra level of evil to Sephiroth, and it would have helped new players understand why, you know, Tifa has a reason to hate him. There is the hint that, yeah, she's picking up his sword, but it could be easy to miss if you don't realize that, hey, that sword is one of a kind. Only Sephiroth carries it. So, yeah, let me know what you guys thought. If you were new to Final Fantasy VII Remake, had never played the OG, let me know if you inferred anything new from it. And hope to catch you guys on the next video with Final Fantasy VII Remake and other Final Fantasy VII games. And we also make other content on this channel as well, so hope you'll check that out too. Catch you guys next time.